So I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4 Episode 1, and I honestly don't really have anything else to say besides that. I think Season 3 left off on the Conquest fight and Invincible saying he's gonna have to kill now, but besides that, there's nothing I'm expecting. It's the start of the Viltrumite War. They're adding some Dark Blood stuff within here. I don't know, I'm just gonna jump in here just as surprised as probably the rest of you are.
Just want to play my game and go to sleep.
Okay, I'm now 9 minutes into episode 1, and honestly, I love how they start off every season with them feeling the effects of the big stuff that happened in the previous season. It really makes it feel like it's a continuous story, and I really appreciate that, because, you know, sometimes a lot of seasons for a lot of other shows, they start off and it's like, completely new things happening and we're not even thinking about what's happening in the previous season. So I really like how this show is like, no, this is a continuation. Everything feels like it's so tense but also so mundane. All these villains are going back to their normal ways of causing havoc for these civilians, and all these heroes are going there to stop it, and Invincible's helping out. Whether he wants to or not, he's helping out. And so is Oliver, and I think his name is Kid Omni-Man or something like that. And it's really interesting to see this Oliver juxtaposed with the previous Oliver, because his race ages so quickly. This Oliver already feels like he has been doing this hero thing for so many years. Most of his childhood must have been wasted just being a hero at this point. So at this point, he's tired. Same with Mark, they've been doing this hero thing all day, same with these villains, and they got one more mission to do. Oliver's through with it, he's tired, he just wants to rest and play a game. Mark has to go, and I enjoy this little thing he said to Debbie. Because of the Invincible War that happened in the previous times, people are looking at him horribly, scared. They don't know if this is a good Invincible or not, because there were so many Invincibles that were there causing havoc around the world. So now he feels obligated to have to go save people, to rebuild his reputation from the ground up. Not even from the ground up, he's rebuilding it from hell, going back upwards now. Can he do it? I don't know, but he sure is trying. This is what I honestly really like about Invincible, or it's like superhero stuff in general, is that it has very strong character work like this, especially in a show like Invincible where he is getting beat up for the majority of the time. I really like the character journey of him having to basically regain his hero status. Not only have they seen a lot of Invincibles be bad, they've also seen his dad Omni-Man be bad. And now not only he has to do this, but Kid Omni also kind of sort of has to do this, but he doesn't want to at this point because he's a teenager, and teenagers, they get bored and tired of this stuff really quickly.
Which is why you need to die!
I'm about 15 minutes in now. We've just been introduced to Dinosaurus, and like, I don't really have anything to say right now, just the tension for all of these characters is really high. Dinosaurus is talking about how Invincible has saved the planet basically because now there's less mouths to feed, so there's more resources to go around, but he's now trying to rectify his mistakes, so now it's messing everything up. So now the resources are going to end up being limited again or something like that, and he's beating him up because of it. But luckily, this is the time period where Invincible doesn't need his braces anymore on his arms and stuff, so there's a pretty even fight until he starts not holding back a little bit and just punches him. Maybe he's going to choke him out, maybe he's not, but the Guardians go there just in time before anything crazy happens. And I don't know, I just really like this tension. Even with Robot, I don't want to call him Rex. Even with Robot, the tension is really high, and if you know what his character journey is going to go through, the tension between him and Invincible is very scary as well. I wouldn't say I'm that familiar with the comics, I just know a basic outline of how the comic was structured and everything that goes on within there. It's somewhere up here because that's hard not to look at when you're searching for images and stuff online. You're gonna stumble across some spoilers here and there or some comparisons to the comics and differences to the comics. But man, things just do not feel safe with Robot and Invincible going through the stuff they're going through currently. The things that are gonna happen are gonna be insane, and still don't know how Dark Blood is going to either increase that or decrease that. I'm about 24 minutes in, and oh my god, how many times are we gonna have to deal with these sequids? I thought we were done after maybe season 1, then we had a cliffhanger. I thought we were done after season 2 maybe, then we had a cliffhanger. They came back in season 3 again with another cliffhanger, and now we're here in season 4 and the sequids are still going on. It's so weird to me because like a lot of the differences from the comics to the show, from a lot of people say, is that they're taking a lot of the storylines that had bits and pieces spread out throughout the issues and combining them to one. Except the sequids, they keep putting them on per season. Even if technically the sequid stuff do still happen at a later time in the comics, they still having them per season is so hilarious to me because they're such a minor threat in my opinion. I never feel like anybody's threatened by these sequids. If anything, the scariest part of the sequid stuff was when they took over Adam, Eve, and Robot, but they didn't do anything with that. They immediately got them uncontrolled. So I don't know what else the sequids can do. Take over one of the Viltrumites maybe? Is that the plan? That's the only way they could be a threat, I guess. I don't really know what else. So I just finished all of episode 1, and yeah, that's an episode 1. That's a good episode 1, let me tell you. Again, don't really like the sequel stuff, but I like the tool it became for the narrative. I guess first things first, I should mention that Eve and Invincible had to go towards the plant because Universa debuted and she was there trying to get power from the plant and they had to stop her. I don't really know what her deal is, but she seems pretty cool. Oh, and now they have all started to realize that Eve's powers are a little bit weird currently. I'm thinking it's because she's pregnant, and I don't know why nobody else is assuming that. But back to the sequids. Everybody's being under control in this city and they're having to go there, put up a field there. They don't want this to spread across the world because each time the sequids is around, it has a chance to easily spread across the entirety of the world. They have to stop it before it gets to that chance. And each fucking time, this astronaut is the casualty for this situation. He always gets caught slacking by the sequid. The sequid always sneaks towards him and he ends up becoming the host again. And now they're there. Everybody has a disruptor. Everybody has a teleporter dart. They're trying to save all the civilians they can without getting any sequids released. The barrier is at like 10%, so they're on a little countdown. And it's getting a little hectic there. They're trying the best they can. They don't know if they can get all of them in time. Cecil has to send Invincible there to help them out. Some people's disruptors are breaking. The sequids are like, humans and sequids belong together. We're going to spread across the entirety of the nation, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. And at the same time, everybody's going, there's just 4% left. There's 3% left. There's 2% left. Invincible on the break. He doesn't know what he should do. He doesn't know what he needs to do. 1% left. What is Invincible going to do? He kills the host. Invincible's first for real human kill is on this astronaut guy that keeps being a casualty host for these sequids. He kills it. It stops the sequids host from spreading any further. Immediately when they did that, all the sequids stopped, but also all the Guardians stopped to look at him. Nobody can believe he just took a life. And it's not the fact that he killed a sequid. I don't think they would have minded if he killed a sequid or killed a monster or anything. But the story itself made sure to emphasize that he had to kill this human who was a host, which he contemplated on doing earlier when Dinosaurus was around and he turned back into his human host, and he was contemplating on taking that person's life or not, but decided not to when the Guardian showed up. This time he decided to do it. That's a good story for the first episode. That's a good story for the first episode for sure. And you know, I could say, he already said he wasn't going to hesitate anymore, so I'm surprised he was even hesitated in the first place. But it's one thing to say something and one thing to do something. So I'm completely fine with him saying he's not going to hesitate to kill, and still in this episode hesitating until the very last moment to do so. Now after this is like, Is it off limits now? Is he going to do this as a first resort thing from now on, or is he still going to save it to be the last resort thing for him to do? I don't know, and I'm kind of hoping he still saves it for the last resort, because if he's just going off killing people, that's insane. He's no different from his father at this point. And, that's what the last couple seasons has been building up to, is him basically being the Omni-Man now to the Guardians, to the point where he's even mirroring how Omni-Man's relationship is to the Guardians. He's never been a part of the team officially. He only comes up there anytime they need some really serious help. He barely even works for Cecil at this point. He's going off on his own things. So it's something interesting to think about. Has he just now become the Omni-Man of this world since Omni-Man's no longer here? But I guess now with no ulterior motives. Although I do think it's important for him to be let loose and be able to kill at this point, because he's going to start seeing more and more Viltrumites pop up. So he was gonna have to pop that cherry eventually. It just sucks that it was on a human. It shouldn't have been on a human, but it was very important for it to be a human in this episode, to emphasize that he'll do what it takes to save lives. Yeah, I think that was a very important message for this episode to have. So I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 2. And I can only assume this episode consists of the fallout that happened in the previous episode. Assumingly it's going to have to deal with the consequences of Mark catching his first body, and not only that, his body was human. He's going to have to deal with the fallout of people looking at him weird and thinking he's more like Omni-Man than all of them thought now. What else can this episode possibly be about? 6 minutes in, I did not expect an Omni-Man backstory. I didn't expect this to be starting in the Viltrum Empire. I have a lot of things I need to say right now. One, Nolan just looks like Mark. He just looks like Mark. These Viltrum genes are very strong because a lot of the male characters do look the same. And you could say that's an animation thing. You can 100% say that. But a lot of the male characters look the same. So far, even Nolan's father in this backstory looks just like Omni-Man does now, just with a bigger mustache. And it's just so funny to see, because even Thrag from what we saw in the trailer just looks like Omni-Man with a buzz cut. It's so funny. Two, I guess the Viltrumites are just evil for evil's sake. Not necessarily evil, but I guess they have very much so a different morality system than humans do. Because we saw at the beginning, the minute one of the indentured servants, I guess I should say, the minute one of them dropped their bags, they killed them off. The minute it seemed like one of the little kids was going to get an answer right, it looked like the other kids were going to kill her off. And they even said, hey, bring weapons for the next meeting because two of you won't make it out alive. And even afterwards, Nolan gets jumped by his parents because it's his birthday, the day he becomes a man. So he has to survive this battle or die with his parents, and that can only make me assume that people have died to this tradition before, and they didn't look down upon that. They just said, oh, he was weak. Guess we gotta try again and have a stronger kid. His father approved of his strength. His mother didn't. And when his mother didn't, she flew off. Similar to when Nolan flew off with Mark at the end of season 1. It was very much so a similar mirroring to that. And I think that was done on purpose so we could see a good juxtaposition towards that. Just in this instance, it wasn't because Nolan had a sense of humanity inside of him. In this instance, it was because the mother felt like they were weak, felt like they didn't provide enough for her, felt like they didn't show enough strength towards this tradition that they had going on. So she just up and left. And I don't know what's gonna go on this first mission. 13 minutes in, this backstory was insane. I know Omni-Man has talked previously about there only being a few pure Viltrumites left, but it didn't go into detail as to how or why there was. And this backstory was specifically why there's only a few Viltrumites left. And apparently during this time period of Nolan finally becoming a man and finally getting on his first mission, joining the Viltrumite Empire properly, it's the same time this asteroid came down on this planet, and it wasn't actually an asteroid, it was a bunch of tech that spread around this gas, and this gas was specifically targeted towards Viltrumites, so all of them had developed this virus where blood was coming out of their mouth and eyes and any hole possible, and they were all dying on the spot. And none of the Viltrumites could figure out any cure to this, none of them could figure out what was going on with them. They were just a superior race that were dying for who knows why, which really doesn't make them that superior if you ask me. And I didn't think that it was going to be that crazy. I thought maybe, hey, there'd be like 100 people left. Maybe it took out 1 million Viltrumites. I'm not really sure, but there's 100% probably a lot left. No, they said this is taking out billions upon billions of Viltrumites on this planet, so much so that the ring around their planet is of the dead Viltrumites' bodies. It's not a ring full of gas, it's a body ring. Insane. And they're talking to their head honcho leader, which I can assume is only Thrag, and telling him, yeah, the Viltrumite Empire is basically over at this point. The only thing we can do now is breed with other species, which will cause inferior beings to be born, yada yada yada. And Thrag is like, no, we have to do this no matter the cause, because we will keep this empire alive and we will thrive once again for our fallen comrades. Still to this day, they don't know what causes gas to go around. Maybe that's what Nolan's about to do now, is figure out what was going on with that. I don't know. They're gonna have to figure out something, because they're gonna have to do something to stop this war from happening, or to slow down the people in this war. Maybe that's the only option. And with Nolan being a part of the resistance at this point, he's the only one alive that's a part of the rebellion that would know about this happening. Maybe that's what they're going to try to discover in this episode. I didn't figure it was going to be a Nolan and Alan episode, but it is.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm used to it.
I'm now 21 minutes in, and there's not really much to say about this episode so far. Just a pretty decent journey about Nolan and Alan going on an adventure to discover these weapons, to see if they're still out there and see if they still have an effect on the Viltrumites. There's not really that much to this episode so far. Other than that, there's some funny bits within here, like Nolan wanting to test to see if the coalition leader was a Viltrumite, but he just has to take his word for it, and it turns out it was the betrayer, the first person to turn their back on the Viltrum Empire, which you could have saw that coming, to be fair. And the only other funny bit, I guess, is Nolan constantly hearing Alan and his girlfriend in the room while he's trying to sleep on the couch. That's really it so far. It's just a pretty decent journey so far for them trying to find these weapons. I kind of like it. You know, I like a little like laid back, less tense episode, because the first episode was very tense comparatively.
Do you know what you did? How many suffered and died?
So I watched the rest of this episode, and it really feels like the main theme was about Nolan and his thoughts going through his head. Because yes, he does know that the Viltrum Empire is a problem, is a threat to the rest of the world, but at the same time, it's his family, it's the way he grew up. He doesn't really see it as a problem, but he understands it from other people's perspective that it is a problem, and he does want to help to stop it. And also at the same time, while going to all of these different planets and gathering all these different resources to help stop the Viltrum Empire, he's facing judgment for what he's done in the past. He's seeing all these former faces that he's had to face back in the day, where he was more gung-ho about the Viltrum Empire, where he was a lot more cold-blooded, and he's had to apologize for a lot of the stuff that he's done, whether he truly wants to or not. It really feels like he has changed and he is apologizing for these things. Especially Space Ranger. He kept him under a pile of rocks for 100 years. Insane. But it really feels like that was the main thing. It's just Nolan's mind, because he doesn't feel right betraying them, but he knows it's a necessary thing to do. Like, he doesn't want to be personally involved within this war. He doesn't want Mark or Oliver to be personally involved within this war, but he knows it is something that's inevitably going to happen. Like, he knows he's going to have to fight some Viltrumites, and he knows Mark and Oliver are going to have to fight as well, but he doesn't want to technically be involved in the war. He just wants it to be personal for him and his family. He really cares about semantics, and his mind is getting even less clear, in my opinion, because Thetis, the coalition leader, has revealed himself to not only be the betrayer, not only to have killed the former guy Argyle, I think his name is, but he was the person to have released that Scourge virus that wiped out billions upon billions of Viltrumites to begin with. He was the person that has done that, which makes sense, because the only way you'd get a virus towards the Viltrumites is if you had a Viltrumite to kind of experiment upon. It makes sense if he was the first test dummy and persons whose blood was used to develop this virus, because he was the only Viltrumite at this point to have betrayed the Empire. And from what he was saying to Nolan, it seems like each time he's betrayed the Empire, whether it's to kill Argyle or to send that virus out to wipe out as many Viltrumites as possible, each time he thought this would show them that their way of living is wrong and that they should look towards another light. They now see how the other species feel when they wipe out almost their entire population. Except that's not what the Viltrumites do. Each time something crazy happens, the leader is like, no, we're gonna double down, we're gonna triple down on what we stand for, and that really upsets Thetis. He didn't realize that it killed billions of people. He thought maybe there were still a lot of people left, so hearing that was surprising towards him. But yeah, this is a lot of stuff for Nolan to think about, and it doesn't really end with him having a clear decision to have made. It ends with him saying, I gotta go see my son. I gotta go get my son. I gotta go talk to my son. What is he gonna tell Mark? How is Oliver gonna react to seeing him? How is Debbie gonna react to seeing him? You know, Paul wants to move in with them at this point. How is Paul going to react to seeing Nolan? Oh, and not only that, I forgot to mention in the previous episode, Conquest got released. They showed this ending credits scene at the end of the countdown they had towards season 4. Conquest, when he woke up, he immediately broke out and went back to the Viltrum Empire, and there he had bowed down to Thrag and was like, I deserve death for my failure. And he's like, no, you don't deserve death. I'm not letting you out that easily. And that's how episode 2's post-credit scene ended. So Thrag is about to make his move. I'm guessing he's going to be one of the final villains, because they always do this with the post-credit scenes leading towards the final fight. I remember them doing this in season 2 with Angstrom Levy. Assumingly he's going to be one of the final fights at the end of this season. Obviously, they're not going to finish him off or anything, but it's going to be a big battle. So I'm about to start watching season 4, episode 3 of Invincible. I really don't know what this episode is going to be about. If I had to assume anything, since I saw Mark on the cover of this episode, assumingly this is going to be about the consequences of him catching his body from episode 1. Assumingly, maybe by the end of this episode, Nolan does show up, and it's like, even more tension is going to happen, because this is already a very tense situation for Mark to be in, and it's going to pile upon that, and the Viltrumites approaching, and everything's going to collapse in this season. It feels like the tension is so high. Yeah, I'm about 8 minutes in. This the one. This episode did start off with a discussion between Machine Head and Titan, but that's not the important thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about people's reactions towards Invincible killing the Sequid host. First things first, we gotta start off with Cecil and Donald. Donald seems to be on Mark's side. He's saying, Cecil, you would have done the exact same thing if you were in his situation. It really seems like you're just wanting to pick and and choose why you're mad at Mark for this specific thing. Because this was the right thing, you would have done this. This was the right thing to do. While Cecil is saying, yes, I would have done that, but I'm not a Viltrum. I'm not someone who is capable of destroying humans with the flick of a finger. This is a dangerous thing, and like, we have stressed this guy out so much to the point where he is now contemplating killing people without any hesitation. This is a bad thing, and that seems to be an argument that's going to continue for the rest of this episode. I really enjoy this argument because that morality point is so weird and twisted, because him becoming like Omni-Man is a worry not only for Cecil but for the entirety of the world. So much so that we've seen each other Invincible in each other universe is like Omni-Man. Each other Invincible does kill for the fun of it. Each other Invincible is a lot more evil than this Invincible is. So if this Invincible is starting to kill people, is he just like the other Invincibles? Is he just like Omni-Man? Is he more like Omni-Man than we think? Even the Guardians are having this discussion. Rudy, Robot, not calling him Rex, is saying how wrong it was for Mark to do this. But everybody else is assumingly on the other side. Bulletproof and Monster Girl are 100% on the other side, saying it was 100% necessary. We don't know if the barrier would have stood. It was on like 1%. He made the right choice. He made a choice, which is good because Invincible doesn't make that many choices in life. So it's good he made this one, and a lot of us are thinking it is the right call. And Rudy is a bit apprehensive. So he's in the showers. He feels something in his stomach. He starts to throw up. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, maybe he's feeling a bit woozy because he can't believe somebody killed somebody in front of him. No, he throws up a sequid. A sequid got inside of him. I'm assuming around the time he got knocked out. I'm not 100% sure, but the sequid almost killed him. He didn't have any voice left. He couldn't scream for help, but luckily Monster Girl was there to save him and kill this sequid. And they're sitting there talking at this point, and now Robot's saying, man, all of these villains come back stronger. We never end them permanently. You know, Doc Seismic, the Sequids, everything keeps coming back, and there's no permanent end to them. And it ends with Monster Girl saying, maybe Mark has a point. Are all of these heroes about to start killing people? I know this is leading to the robot stuff. I know this is 100% leading to the robot stuff, but man, it's really starting to sound like, oh god, a lot of these heroes are going to start killing people because they're tired of the bullshit that these villains put them through. They keep coming back, and they keep coming back stronger, and they keep having to get stronger, and they're eventually going to be outclassed, and there's only going to be Mark that's going to be able to put up a fighting chance. So putting them from the end to them does sound like the better option to do, but at the same time, this is an ongoing series, so you can't do that. Somebody's going to end up saying no, something crazy is going to end up happening, and they are going to keep coming back because that's what villains do. But how will they react to that?
Are we done? You can go whenever you...
I'm about 23 minutes in, and I want to talk about Mark's reaction towards what he did a little bit. From what it seems like, it's taking a big toll on Mark, about as much as it took on him when he thought he killed Angstrom Levy. And he seems like he regrets it, but at the same time, he knows it was the right thing to do. And even when Cecil brought him in to talk, he made sure to put up a front like he knew it was the right thing to do. He was telling Cecil he doesn't need to talk, he doesn't need to talk to, especially not him. Well, I feel like Cecil was trying to give him some pretty decent advice, telling him, hey, I'm not that old. I look this way because of stress and what these types of decisions does to a man. It takes an emotional toll on you, and that's what it's done to me, and I don't want you to have to deal with those types of decisions, Mark. But Mark seems pretty gung-ho on making the decisions that he wants to. He says he's an adult now, he gets to make these decisions of his own, even if the flick of the finger he can just break a human's body entirely. He says he's in control, he knows what to do, and his decisions were tested in this moment because Dr. Sinclair walked in and was trying to apologize for what he did to Mark's friend and his boyfriend in college and the rest of the students that was there as well. He really surprisingly seemed genuinely apologetic towards what he did, but Invincible's fist balled up and he just told him to shut up and leave. So it seemed like Invincible wasn't in the brightest mood, and maybe he was thinking about killing him for a second. I don't know. Has Invincible truly snapped? Has he not? It seems pretty up in the air. And also, Eve's still dealing with the fact that her powers are starting to disappear and dissipate a little bit. Why has nobody come to the conclusion that she might be pregnant? I feel like that's the first thing that my mind would come to if my powers started adding up, right? I don't know. I just feel like that's the most appropriate thing to assume.
Hey, hero.
So I watched the rest of this episode, and it was fairly simple, with this being a Machine Head and Titan episode. Oliver had to fight this dragon since Mark didn't feel like it, but the Flaxons have invaded once again. We haven't seen them since like season 1, but they're back, and better than ever. They've prepared for Omni-Man, who isn't here anymore, and they're giving a what for to Invincible now. But now, since Invincible and the Guardians have this new mindset, Robot has this new ideas that he can do now. He wants to destroy the transmitter to stop them from de-aging, which he was able to do, but he didn't want to leave yet because the problem wasn't solved yet, and they're just going to come back better, and they're going to come back stronger, and he doesn't want to deal with that anymore. They really don't want to deal with that anymore. They love Mark's new strategy of solving the problem by ending their lives right then and there. So they want to take them out from the inside, similar to how Omni-Man did from before, but they want to finish their job. The Flaxons see Invincible heading their way, and they decide to destroy the portal before Invincible could go in there and do what Omni-Man did before. So now Monster Girl and Robot are trapped in that dimension. That makes them age rapidly. So by the time we see them again, they're gonna look wholly different. And Oliver couldn't deal with Liu the dragon on his own, so he ended up calling Mark for help, and there they were able to run the dragon off, and they took off, and Invincible almost killed Titan because Oliver got seriously damaged. So he's like, yo, don't fuck with my family. He almost killed Titan. Oliver had to say, yo, chill out. I wanted to do this. Stop. It doesn't seem like this new strategy is going as a plan. It's not as simple as stopping the problem from then on, because each time something terrible has happened. Now Rudy and Monster Girl are gone, and Invincible almost killed Titan. I don't know if he deserves it or not, but he does keep taking Mark's niceness to his advantage. It seems like things just aren't going their way, and I could say it's all Invincible's fault because it damn sure might be. This episode didn't end with the Omni-Man and Alan post-credit scene. It didn't end with the Conquest post-credit scene. It didn't end with the Thrag post-credit scene. It ended with Eve taking a pregnancy test and it coming back positive. Yes, what we have been theorizing for these past couple episodes has come true. Eve is pregnant. Very much so, obviously. I don't know why this wasn't the first thing that they thought was wrong with her powers. It's the most obvious thing to have happened. I don't know why she's shocked by this. This would be the only reason her powers would be messing up. But I guess at the end of the day, that's more stress for them to deal with. They now have to deal with this baby being born and also deal with this new morality that Mark might want to go through but is still apprehensive towards. And now the Guardians are also wanting to go through with this new morality system. It's a lot. And you know, Monster Girl and Rudy are going to age rapidly in there. They're going to come back older, and probably that's when the robot stuff are going to start happening. You know, he's going to come up with a new mindset. You know, he's going to start festering, and maybe he has taken out the Flaxons by the time he comes back. I don't know, but I really cannot wait to see it. I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 4, where I think I left off in Episode 3 as Monster Girl and Not got left off in a Flaxon place, and they're probably going to age rapidly while in there. So this episode is going to have to focus on the aftermath of that and maybe some more of Invincible's downward spiral, because he is a little bit of a loose cannon at this point. You know, he's got his first body, he almost beat Titan to death. You know, what's he gonna do next? Where is this downward spiral going to take him? We have to find out.
The fact that it's eating you alive means you're not him.
I'm about 5 minutes into the episode so far, and I do want to take a brief minute to talk about Mark and Art's discussion that they had. It was about what Mark did. The body he caught is still eating him alive, is still tearing him up on the inside, and maybe the consequences of Rudy and Monster Girl going away, he hasn't correlated that just yet, but that's kind of a part of it too. But what Mark is saying in this discussion is that he feel like he isn't just becoming his father at this point. He feel like he is his father. He feels like he's not worthy of being a hero anymore. He feels like he just needs to give up being this hero. He needs to change and work on himself and whatever's going on in his head at this point. He can't go around killing people, because if he does, he's no better than Nolan. He doesn't like that Oliver is looking at him weird when he was beating the hell out of Titan. Just a couple of months prior, this kid was blasting through the Mauler brothers. So seeing him react this way towards something that Mark is doing is very reflective of Mark's behavior in his head. So he doesn't feel the best. So he's giving him back his blue suit, and in response, Art tried to give him his old suit and saying, "You're still the kid that I once knew, and this might help you remember that you are still that kid that's still trying to be the hero, but this world is just not as bright as you think it is. This world is dangerous and it's changing you because of it. You're not becoming your father. You are a reflection of the world that has been thrust upon you." It's a very gray area they're trying to make Mark be in currently. And it's just gonna get more and more stressful because there is so much that still hasn't happened yet. The Viltrumite war hasn't started yet. The robot stuff hasn't started yet. Eve hasn't told him she's pregnant yet. There's so much stuff that still has to happen. So much stress that is going to be added upon to what's going on in Mark's head already. And honestly, I could see that making him snap. Oh, and I guess this episode is going to kind of start this Damien Darkblood stuff. It was a big focus in the previously on earlier in this episode, and before I paused it, we have gotten into hell, I think, or at least we're in a volcano, and we see a lot of demons in these tech suits, and we see their assuming leader. I think her name was Volcantress or something like that. Her name is Volcanica, by the way. Kinda hot. Okay, I'm now about 15 minutes in. The roles are very different than I thought they were going into this. I thought them and Volcanica were working together, and Volcanica was going to be another one of those recurring villains like a Doc Seismic. She was just being introduced in this season and was going to start causing havoc. But apparently, she is of opposition to these demons. So it was her and her merriment of volcanic people versus Damien Darkblood, Domina, and the rest of the demonic people. And they were going back and forth. It looked like it might have been even at one point, but every single hit they were doing, it was doing nothing to Hot Lady Volcanica. She was not being phased one bit. And eventually, she just wiped everybody out, and Damien Darkblood was the only one left. And she said he was too worthless to defeat. She made him drag his sorry ass and the rest of his team back to Satan empty-handed yet again. She said, "Tell that motherfucker I'm the great beast now. There's nothing he can do. I've beat him twice already. I don't need to do it a third time. I'm the great beast now." Honestly, I'm really trying to sit here and understand the story that they're trying to tell with Damien Darkblood. And maybe it's just because I haven't seen season 1 in a long time. I feel like his character is kind of different from how it was in season 1. There's a detective in the DC comics, I think, that is very similar to this. And I kind of thought that was the role that Damien Darkblood was playing in the world of Invincible. He was this mysterious demon who is a great detective, and maybe there could have been a side story of him trying to do stuff. But looking at him now, learning more stuff about him, his character has changed a lot, and he's now seen as a weak, subservient person to Satan, a subservient person to a lot of enemies in this world. He doesn't compare to what Omni-Man and Invincible is, or a lot of the heroes and villains even. And it's strange yet intriguing juxtaposing how he's acting in this versus how confident he was in standing toe-and-toe against Nolan in season 1. I just feel like that's a crazy juxtaposition that maybe is going to be explored within here. I don't know. Maybe they just think they're better than all mortals. But going back to Satan, Satan seems kind of through with it. He's like, "Listen, we've been trying all this stuff. I'm just gonna revive everybody and you're gonna go back to Volcanica and try again." And Damien Darkblood's like, "No, I want to try this conjuring thing again." And they're like, "Listen, both of these things really don't work, but we gotta try with one of these." So this just seems like these are sorry villains, in my opinion. Okay, I'm now 26 minutes into this episode, and oh my god, is this a lore dump. Almost don't have anything to say because of how lore heavy it is, and there's gonna be a section of people that are going to be turned off by this in this episode because it's dealing with Damien Darkblood and hell and demons, and they said that, hey, demons aren't actually that bad, Satan's not a bad guy. That's not gonna go over that well for a lot of people. There is a lot of lore that was being told about this world or Earth in general and how it came to be, and how humans are the 6th generation of living creatures within here, and age 1 were like gigantic unfathomable monsters, and age 2 were the kaijus and the beasts and stuff, and for some reason they don't talk about age 3, and age 5 is where the demons and stuff came to be, and age 4 is where Volcanica's people have came to be and where the chaos ensues. So the reason they've drug Invincible here is because they want Invincible to help them defeat Volcanica, because they said she is planning to destroy the world and all of humanity, and he's the only one who can help them stop him. They wanted to contact Omni-Man and send him there, which it does tie into season 1 a little bit better because he still had the outfit and the vial from then, and that's what he used to conjure up Mark and bring him there. So I do like that tie in a little bit better, and it makes his role in season 1 seem a bit different. He was very serious and stern and confident in front of Nolan and Cecil and everything because he was on a mission, because he was trying to find somebody suitable to help Satan or bring Satan back to life, or whatever it really is he's trying to do, because I don't know if I trust him or not. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Titan episode happened before this. If we remember how Titan got involved with Invincible, it's because Titan gave him this sob story about his life and his daughter and everything, and he kind of convinced Invincible to help him out and make him the new leader of the gang he was affiliated with instead of Machine Head. Here, in Hell, it feels kind of similar. They said Volcanica took Satan's throne and they brought Invincible there to help them throw Volcanica out in some sort of a coup so Satan can regain his throne and it can help be a step towards his revival, I think. And I think this is being put upon us now, so just suppose how Mark feels like he's not a hero at this point. He's going to be doing a lot of different choices from how he did during his first Titan interaction. And maybe by the end of this episode, he will kind of see the error in his ways and be more of the hero that he once was, or once felt like he was. And to add 2 more steps to that theme, it does not help that they were able to bring him there with the blood they got from Omni-Man. They really wanted Omni-Man's help. They really wanted Omni-Man to help solve whatever issues were going on in this realm. But they didn't bring Omni-Man there, they brought Mark there. So that's added on to the thematic theme of this season of he is Omni-Man now. That's very blatant in our face at this point. And the second thing that's added upon this is the mummy. I cannot remember the mummy's name because I never see him as that important. I always see him as a gag. He was always used as a gag. In fact, I almost completely forget about him every single time. But that was the drug that Mark had to take that he was drugged from. The mummy was kind of sad because he thought, hey, I finally got a nice suitor that I could take over the body of, but instead he had to take over the body of a woman even if he really didn't want to. And the reason this is added upon to that theme is because that's another person possessed that could potentially cause dangerous havoc across the world. And maybe it's going to be another situation where Mark feels like he's going to have to kill this person or try to find a different outcome because he really doesn't want to be like his father. He's gonna have to try to come up with something that isn't just kill it so it solves the problem. He wants to find a different solution. And I think that's the story they're gonna tell with that mummy part. I really like the character journey that Invincible is going through. I hope he makes it out as a better person. I'm about 38 minutes into this episode now, and I'm kind of surprised how focused this episode is. Normally, throughout Invincible episodes, we turn to see what other characters are going through and the journeys that other people are having at the same time that this is happening with Invincible. But this is a very focused episode of Damien Darkblood's hell journey. I feel bad for not caring that much, and this is just mostly probably because this is all new lore that is being thrust upon me, so it's like I can't care about this as much as like the Viltrum stuff, let's say, because I've been hearing about that stuff since season 1 came out, so I care about that a lot more, as opposed to all of these demons and Volcanica and all of this other stuff where I, quite frankly, is almost all passing me by. It's hard to keep up with everything you're trying to tell me in this episode. But I will say one thing this episode is doing really well is making me a fan of Damien Darkblood. I do find his bluntness endearing, and I do like his relationship that he has with Invincible, at least within this episode. He seems very straightforward, very blunt, I've seen a little bit of everything at this point, so like there's nothing you could say that will faze me. When they were falling into the pit to get to the crown and they were talking a bunch of nonsense, one thing he said was that he feels very different from his dad. There's a little bit of detective in him. Invincible likes asking questions, wondering what's going on. He is different from Omni-Man, but Invincible doesn't want to hear that. He's refusing to see that he is very different from Nolan. He just feels like he's a bad person at this point. And even later, after they've given a crown back to Satan and he has this new form which doesn't look good also to me, he's talking to Invincible some more, and that's where we start to see more of where Invincible's head at. Invincible thinks that there was probably some other solution that he possibly could have done. But Damien Darkblood is saying, hey, we do this hell thing, we torture people, and humans live on Earth free. We don't do this hell thing and torture people, the Earth is doomed. And Invincible is saying, no, there is always another solution. And Damien is saying, yeah, but maybe the Earth didn't have that much time left for us to figure that solution out. And all of this is, you know, going into Invincible's head, and he's having to think about all of these things. And I do think for the betterment of himself, or maybe for the worse of himself, he's going to convince himself that he did it for the better good. And maybe at this point his anger is getting the best of him a little bit, but that specific situation with the Sequids was his best option. There was nothing else he could have done. The Titan thing, yeah, you're letting your anger get the best of you right there in some other situations, but this specifically with the Sequids, it was your only solution. There was nothing else you could have done, man. Alright, I'm about 46 minutes into this episode now when obviously Invincible got a little bit more involved than he assumed. Originally, he thought the plan was just for him to get all the merrymen of volcanic ne'er-do-wells out of the way so all of the demonic people could focus on Volcanica. But that is just not what happened. Volcanica basically mollywalked everybody. She said, hey, actually, I was holding back this entire time. I just wanted to get my rounds back in with Satan, and she did that, and she was mollywalking everybody. So Invincible did have to get involved, and just like he did with Russ, who was taken over by the Sequids, he punched Volcanica in the face. But because Volcanica's Volcanica, she just regenerated, and he hit her again, she regenerated, and he hit her again, and she regenerated. And this kind of ended with her being like, I'll return. So she is going to be a reoccurring villain. I knew it. You don't be that hot and not be a reoccurring villain. But I really don't know what this fight did to Invincible's psyche. Did this fight really make his mind switch and be like, okay, she was talking mad stuff. She was saying that, alright, I've already beat Satan. That's out of the way. I'm gonna go make terror upon the human realm and stuff. And I'm gonna go do a lot of dangerous things and terrorize the world. Was that enough for him to be like, oh, what I did was right? Why was that enough for him to confirm what he did was right exactly? Because this is what Damien Darkblood has been telling him this entire time, but it took a villain saying it to his face for him to realize, oh wait, this can actually happen, and if I don't act now, things might be too late. He said verbatim, even if the Guardians do act and can take Volcanica out, there will still be some lives lost. So I had to act now. Is this supposed to symbolize that he has turned a new leaf and he's now okay with the acts that he's done? Or is this supposed to be a symbolism for him getting darker and getting more aggressive and him going towards the even more edgier, darker side? Like all of the other Invincibles we met during the Invincible War.
I'm sorry, Mark. The time for war is upon us.
Okay, I've now watched the rest of the Invincible episode, and I can confidently say I think it was the fact that Mark got his resolve back, because it ended with him finding Art's room and quickly grabbing his blue and yellow suit. So now he's back in OG Invincible colors, ready to take on the day. There was some music, he did the little flying montage thing again, but there's still some deep issues within him. He does have a new resolve, he does feel like a hero again, but there's still a lot of stuff, a lot of stress, anxiety, just things that have happened that are still going through his head, and it's getting added upon that because Debbie broke the news that her and Paul are probably going to be buying a house together, and she's probably going to sell this family house. How could it get worse for there? I don't know. Maybe Eve's gonna talk to him. Oh no, never mind. Before Eve got the opportunity to, Alan and Nolan have finally made their way there. So now Omni-Man is there, and he's gonna have to see Debbie again, and their interaction is going to be weird, and maybe Paul's interaction with him is going to be weird. Is he going to find out about Paul? I don't know, but this is like, there's so much things that are happening to Invincible right now, and it's not going to get any better. Like, he might feel like a hero again, but this arc is going to be just a downward, beaten down Invincible, getting mollywopped not only physically but emotionally, mentally, stressfully as well. Oh, and I guess Satan does want to come to the living world. Damon Darkblood now has a new mission. So I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 5. Episode 4 not only ended with Invincible getting his original suit back, but also ended with Omni-Man and Alan coming there and finally seeing Mark again face to face. What's gonna happen? Is this gonna be super intense? Is the war about to start? Let's find out.
I failed. You're not one of us. You're not human.
I'm 11 minutes into this episode now, and my god, I did not know how this episode was gonna go. I knew this confrontation was bound to happen between Nolan and Debbie, but like, feeling it and being here with it, I felt invasive being here because of how intense it was. There's something both reassuring and reaffirming the way Debbie stood her ground against Nolan. It's something that you might not have seen her do previously in the past, but seeing her here now, focused, have moved on, and has had a new life at this point, she is now somebody who doesn't want Nolan, and that's intriguing to me. We spent the entirety of season 2 and some of season 3 with her sulking and in this deep depression because of what Omni-Man did, and now I feel like Omni-Man is going to be in her perspective at this point. He's now in the more sulking, trying to reconcile what he did, and also want to point out that him wanting to apologize is a good thing, but also I think he didn't need to apologize. When he was talking to Mark earlier, Mark briefly mentioned it is, did he want to apologize for Debbie or for himself? Was he being selfish by wanting to apologize for what he did? Because him being there is going to bring back up all of the trauma that he caused. Him being in front of her is going to make her relive the stuff that she went through within seasons 1, 2, and some of 3. Him being there it's not a good thing. Maybe hearing that he feels bad for what he's done is fine and a-okay and dandy, but that doesn't erase the actions that he did, and that's the issue. You couldn't have had this change of heart previously before you did all of these things. You couldn't have been willing to go against your people before all of this. This is the issue. You've done the actions. It's way too late to apologize, and I'm very happy that Debbie stood her ground on this. Kind of scared that that's not gonna matter. I'm so scared that that's not gonna matter in a couple arcs. Shout out Paul though, he got a real one.
I wasn't there for my other mom, so I'm gonna save this one.
I'm about 18 minutes in. And first things first, Ted Jacket seems cool as hell. Kind of like a mix between Penny Parker and Blue Beetle. She's this cool person in this suit, kind of looks like a Metabot. She's taking orders from her dad up in space, who is like the Blue Beetle mechanism, who's doing all the repairs and stuff on the suit and everything. It seems pretty fun. It's cool. I like Ted Jacket. Ted Jacket seems really awesome. But on a serious note, I do want to talk about Oliver, because he is now within this picture. He's now found out what's going on, and that Omni-Man didn't really stay to see him, which is kind of fucked up, because he said he feels bad for what he did to the lady on Thraxon, the Queen of Thraxon. Does that mean he doesn't care about Oliver? Does that mean I don't know, he didn't stay to see Oliver? He's never seen Oliver besides when he was a baby. It just feels weird, not only for us, the audience, but for Oliver as well. And he wants to go on this war as well, because he feels like he has people he needs to protect in this planet as well. He feels like he didn't get to save his mom when his planet was being attacked by Viltrumites, so he wants to save his mom on this planet from the Viltrumites. But also, I do think there's a little bit of him that wants to prove himself to Nolan. I do think there's a little bit of him that feels like he's a little bit of an afterthought when it comes to Omni-Man. Now, Omni-Man only calls for Mark, only wants Mark. I think there's a little bit of him that's jealous. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But listen, he's never really hated Nolan or the things that he's done, especially when he was a kid. He went as far as to call himself Kid Omni-Man because of his admiration for the stories that Mark and Debbie told him about Omni-Man. But now that he's back, now that he can see the admiration and respect he has for him, he doesn't want to see him. He just ghost him, basically. Oliver wasn't there, so he didn't really even think to see Oliver at all. He didn't go up to his room. He didn't ask Mark to go see him. He didn't ask Debbie to see him. He just kind of left after his argument with Debbie, which rightfully so. That was super intense. But I feel like you do have a little bit of an obligation to see your son, man. Like, for the first time ever, basically.
Dad?
He needs to go back.
I'm about 27 minutes in now, and oh my god, I love everything about this episode. These episodes this season haven't been as action-y, but the interpersonal stuff that season 2 was about, it's the same thing this season feels like early on. I feel like it's building up to something, but these early episodes are everything to me. And this episode in particular is strictly about Nolan and how his actions have caused everybody to kind of shun him, discern him. It makes him feel like he's the bad guy, which rightfully so. After the Debbie situation didn't go well, he tried to go see Art, and Art was like, look, we can hang for a little bit, but I gotta go, I'm kind of busy. And Nolan was like, hey, maybe you can make me a suit later after all this is said and done. And Art's like, look, I only make suits for heroes, bit dog. Nolan did not like that one bit. He did not like that one bit. And even later, when Mark and Oliver made it to the spaceship, he went to meet them and was like, I didn't want Oliver here. I don't want Oliver into this mess. Oliver looked him in the eye and said, you don't get to make that decision. You didn't even come there to see me. You don't want me. There's just a lot of mess going on with Nolan currently. He's trying to frame it that he was trying to protect Oliver from him, because his mess has already caused a lot of damage to Mark and Debbie, and he didn't want that mess to cause stuff for Oliver. But what he's failed to realize, that it's already caused some sort of damage, sort of mental stuff to Oliver. Because let's not forget that it was because of Nolan that his home planet was destroyed by Viltrumites. let's not forget that Nolan went there and did not see him, did not even think about seeing him. His main thing was to see Debbie. He didn't want Oliver in this mess. He even said he didn't really love Oliver's mom. So there's just a lot of stuff going on right there, you know? This really feels like a downward spiral of Omni-Man's mental. He thought he can just go there, and since he's changed, everybody will now accept this new him, but it's not really working out like that. It's not really how real life works. He's now has to rebuild things from the ground up if he even can, if he wants to. It's kind of hard to do when you've killed a lot of people on this planet, but maybe he can? I'm about 45 minutes in, and this episode had action in it. So much action. Oh my god. I'm surprised how much there was in this episode, because the first half was 100% building up towards the war. Everybody's saying their goodbyes. Everybody's finally getting on to the spaceship. Everybody's introducing everybody to each other, and they're getting acclimated to this life, chilling, playing games, eating. Nolan feeling like an other, you know. Mark doesn't want to really talk to him. Oliver doesn't really want to talk to him. He's just feeling like he's kind of there. He hasn't been able to prove himself that he's changed to them. But man, oh man, the spaceship got attacked, and not just by anybody, by a Viltrumite spaceship, and 3 Viltrumites came out of there. One I haven't seen before, the black guy that was in Thraxen, and Conquest. We're here fighting Conquest already in episode 5, and each time we see them fight Viltrumites, they're fighting tooth and nail to just try to scratch and claw onto them, and it's intense, it's crazy, and and honestly, they just feel really overpowered. Like, I remember when Alan was first getting arrested, he said, wait, these moves don't hurt as much, and he was able to go hand in hand with them. It almost felt like he was stronger than the Viltrumite that was arresting him at that point. But over here, even one Viltrumite is causing everybody so much damage, they cannot handle just one of the no-named people they can't handle. I mean, they probably have a name, I just don't care to know them. But there's so many of them that they just can't handle, and it's like, how are they going to do this? How are they going to fight this war? How are they going to survive at all? Because everything is seeming intense right now at this point. Intense is the theme of this season, I guess. And one of the big storytelling things that they were saying throughout this battle was Oliver going in a little bit in over his head. He's trying to fight Conquest to get revenge for what he did to them in season 3, and things aren't necessarily going as well for him. He's being saved by Omni-Man, is being saved by Mark. And eventually Nolan just says, hey, go to that planet if you need to breathe, because you look like you need to catch a breather. So Oliver goes over there, but holy shit, Conquest goes after him, and Mark has to go in after him, and Nolan has to go in after him. And this Mark v Conquest 2 fight is fucking nuts. If there were any worries about Invincible trying to hold back fighting these Viltrumites, or Invincible not knowing what to do when he's fighting the Viltrumite again, it is not that this time. He said, I killed you once, Conquest, I'm gonna do it again. And they were fighting tooth and nail. Once they got to this planet and he saw Conquest was about to go after Oliver, he immediately put him in a chokehold, and then he wouldn't let go, and the whole fight was Conquest trying to get him to let go, ramming him into rocks, ramming him into everything, and Invincible just wouldn't let go for anything, to the point where Conquest felt like he had to do his hand knife thing that all the Viltrumites do, and stabs Mark right through the stomach. It goes right through, but he's yanking out guts left and right, and Mark's still not letting go. He's really proving himself to be the name of his hero burst, and he is being invincible right now because he's not letting go. He's very fortified currently, and Conquest is struggling, pulling out as much guts and organs as he can, but it's just not enough. Mark wins, but to what extent? The dude's almost dead again, or maybe he is dead. I mean, obviously he's not, but damn, the dude's almost dead again already, and this is the first fight. How are they going to survive a whole war?
Where are they? I don't know.
I should have just waited to talk, because I've now seen the rest, and that was really the majority of it was that action. Because I was assuming that we were going to see Nolan and Oliver's reaction to Mark and them trying to get him to safety, but it just stopped with them seeing Mark in the state that he's in, shivering and shaking with all of his guts hanging out of him, with Conquest next to him dead. One can only assume that the next episode is going to focus on that a bit more, because now they're on their own and they're going to have to find their way back to the Coalition on their own to try and see what's up. But also, Alan and Tet Jacket are on their own, and they're even in a worse state because they had to run and hide, and they went to hide on the ship. They're on the Viltrum spaceship, and there's barely any hiding they can do. They can't move from the one spot that they're in, or they'll get spotted and taken out immediately. They have to pray and hope that they don't go home to the planet Viltrum, because they will get taken out immediately again. How did they make it out of this one? They got split up so quickly. This war has started very fast, very intensely. I don't know what's gonna happen. Are more Viltrumites gonna come to try to take out Oliver and Nolan while Mark's recovering and they're trying to find their way back to the Coalition? Is Alan and Tet Jacket going to survive in general? Are they literally gonna stay there for the next couple of episodes? Or are they gonna get into some serious stuff? I don't know. How do they all come back together? What the fuck? What the fuck? What's gonna happen? I'm assuming they're gonna all have to come back together, because that one pose that they did on the poster for this season and in the trailer with all of them together and Mark standing like this, that hasn't happened yet. So they're gonna have to all rejoin eventually. And also, Thrag hasn't been introduced to them, and I'm assuming he's going to be the final person they fight. Or at least we're gonna see Thrag kill somebody at the end of this season. Like, one or the other. I am very surprised by how intense this episode was compared to the past 4 episodes. That this felt like it was leading up to this. Everything felt like it was an inch closer to leading up towards this. Is very lucky that Mark is in the situation that he's in, where he's had to go through all of his mental gymnastics to prepare himself to not hold back versus these Viltrumites anymore, not hold back towards his enemies anymore. And now with this new resolution, he was able to take out Conquest immediately, able to lock on and not let go of Conquest until damage was done to him. I'm a little bit pissed off because he didn't headbutt him this time. If he was headbutting him, I don't think Conquest would have took as much damage as he did to him. But he was just there, just having him in the chokehold while he was ripping everything out from his insides. What is the next episode going to be about? This episode got me so hyped for the rest of this season. It's insane. I'm fully back now. So I'm about to start watching Invincible season 4 episode 6 now. And episode 5 was way too insane for this episode to just not be a direct continuation of all the things that happened in there. That's the only thing this episode could be about. Maybe we could see Mark heal up a bit, because he got destroyed. Let's see what happens.
They think they are our equals, but they are not even the dust beneath our heels.
I'm about 5 minutes in. Currently not too much to talk about. I just wanted to say at this portion of the time, we're getting speeches from Thaddeus and Thrag to their respective people saying this war has officially started and we are on the hunt. We're doing this. And surprisingly enough, well, I guess not surprisingly, because they're very low in their actual Viltrumite people, so they're using a lot of the people that they've conquered. So it's a lot of ship wars going on, very Star Wars-y battles in space. They're all shooting lasers at each other. And I guess I'm sitting here 5 minutes in trying to talk about this because I wanted to ask the question, do the Viltrumites think they're in the right? I just thought they wanted to show to the world that their might is not to be tested with. Do they want peace, but in the aggressive sense, like a Pain, like a Sasuke type of person, where they're like, I want everybody to hate us and obey us, and therefore we're all gonna get along with each other? Do they want something like that? Which I guess in a sense does make sense to what people have been saying to Mark, because they have been telling him in the past that this is what's best for Earth because the people here are very weak, and under the Viltrumite protection, they'll never have to worry about their resources going low. They'll never have to worry about all these different things that might plague them, sickness, everything else. They'll just survive. Although they would have to caveats work for the Viltrumites unwillingly. And the only reason I'm throwing this question out there is because it was focusing on Thrag a little bit. We got to hear a lot of Thrag speaking within this. This is the first time we've heard him give like a bunch of speech. At the beginning part was a rah-rah to his troops, and then they cut to him by himself a little bit. And he was saying stuff like, I can't believe they want to do this to us, the Viltrumites. We've been helping everybody. What? You've destroyed most planets you've went to. You've enslaved most of the races of the planets you've conquered. What are you talking about? You've helped them. But it really feels like they're bathing in their own words. It really feels like they believe in themselves. They believe the practices that the people before them have preached. They believe the practices of Argol, their leader that died tragically. Right? This is all for him. This is all for his teachings and practices. And this is all to prove that the Viltrumites are the strongest. They just had to convince themselves that it's also to help other people out as well by enslaving them.
I heard you that night at home with Mom.
I'm about 14 minutes in, and by God, I love everything about this episode. It's definitely a lot less tense than the previous episode, but that's because we're in recovery time. We're all relaxing, trying to get our bearings back from the events that happened in the previous episode. Mark is incapacitated. If I had to compare this to anything, this gives kind of forced to death vibes from our Naruto fans out there. When Naruto and Sasuke were both knocked out and Sakura was there trying to defend them from other enemies that might have tried to take them out. It is kind of like that. Since Mark is there incapacitated, Nolan and Oliver had to protect them and kind of fend for themselves on this barren planet full of monsters with no one there but each other to keep them company. A person who said getting with Andressa was a mistake. And Andressa's son. And tensions between these two have already been high since the previous episode because Oliver was freaking out because he didn't come to see him. He only came to see Mark. He didn't even want Oliver to join in this war against the Viltrumites. He didn't want Oliver in this mess. But each time, even here, each time he's tried to talk to Oliver, each time he's tried to get close to Oliver, Oliver shuts him off. Oliver leaves. Oliver's not eating. He doesn't want to speak to Nolan. And it's a little bit more tense, it feels like, than, he just didn't come to see me. I just thought, hey, it's kind of teen angst emotions are a bit more of a high than a normal teenager maybe. I'm not really sure. But turns out it's something way crazier than that. He was upstairs when Nolan and Debbie were having a talk. He overheard them talking, which means he heard Nolan say getting with Andressa was a mistake. He is pissed off because now he feels like Nolan doesn't want him at all. He feels like he's been unburdened by even being alive at this point. His only two family members, Mark and Debbie, aren't there to console him. The only person who's there is this guy who's constantly said he doesn't want you. He's never came to see you. It doesn't even sound like he's ever asked about you before. It's just Debbie. It's just Mark. And we know as an audience that it's because Nolan does want him to get involved in this mess. We know as an audience Nolan kind of does care about him, but in a distant father kind of way. Like, I love him so much, I don't want to get him involved in my mess and mess him up like I messed Debbie and Mark up. But it doesn't really work like that because, doing what you did on the Thaxan planet has already messed him up, kind of, sort of, in a way. And adds on to the fact that what we talked about in the previous video, Oliver said this out loud now. He said that he has idolized Nolan since he was a kid. He has said that his hero name is Kid Omni-Man. He has idolized this guy for the longest time, and now to find out this guy just didn't care about you, doesn't care about your mom, kind of feels like what he did on Thaxan was a mistake because he just wasn't there mentally, emotionally. He was in this changing period from going from mean bad guy to kind of sort of maybe good guy, human maybe. And it's feeling weird for Oliver. He now feels like he's the Josuke of the Joestars instead of a Jotaro. And I really like this episode just focusing on their relationship. It feels really nice. I could watch this for the longest time. I could watch this show just be about this family drama to the ends of time. And now Nolan is trying to train him as well. Hopefully they can keep getting back to that because Oliver desperately needs some training, but it doesn't look like Oliver wants it, especially not from him. I'm about 18 minutes in. I think it's a little appropriate to talk about Ted Jacket and Alan, at least a little bit in this video. Where we left off with them last time, they were trapped on a ship trying to wait for an opportunity to escape. And the opportunity came because the Viltrumites had to set a course to this planet called Glacia, I think, where they were fighting against the Coalition. And that was their time to escape, finally to go to the Coalition ships to get a little bit of a head start and some leeway away from them, you know. Ted Jacket and Alan seems to be really getting along, they're just chilling, they're just gaming, and now they're on the way back to the Coalition ships. But the two grunt Viltrumites they had to fight before are back for revenge to try to fight them some more. And selfless Alan tried to hold them off for as long as he could until Ted Jacket could escape and make it back to the Coalition ships. But he was getting a what for a little bit. It didn't seem as graphic as some of the stuff did in the previous episode, but he was getting beat up a little bit, left, right, a couple hits, a couple headbutts. But before they could do the Viltrumite hand knife thing and pierce him in the heart or something, I guess, Ted Jacket popped back up with Space Racer, and oh my god, that laser actually worked. I thought it was going to be a little bit of a bluff. I thought it just looked like it was going to be powerful, but there wasn't really any tests against Viltrumites to see if it was actually going to be useful. But it actually worked. It tore through one of the people and blew up their spaceship. Insane. Yeah, that was crazy. Really crazy.
If my mom meant nothing to you, then why'd you have me?
I'm about 27 minutes into the episode now, and I'm starting to realize this episode is going to start showing some of my biases towards the Invincible story as a whole, where I really care about the Grayson family and all of their family drama and stuff going on, and I don't really care about much of the characters, deadass. Which is probably by design because the show is called Invincible, to the point where anytime there is a non-Grayson character on my screen and they're talking and stuff, I'm asking myself, where's Invincible? Where's one of the Grayson characters? Well, what is Oliver and Nolan doing at this time period? And it's starting to seem like they're getting along a bit better. They had to find something different to feed the Mark since it looked like he wasn't healing that properly. So to do that, they had to go get these eggs from this creature, and Oliver stopped Nolan from killing it, saying, hey, this is a mom. She's just trying to protect her eggs, her youth, her kids, harboring back to his feelings of Andressa, his not knowingness of his mother. He has that bond to his mother, but he doesn't know her that well. And he's saying, hey, this creature might have intelligence. You don't know. Just because you don't care about this creature doesn't mean that she isn't just trying to protect her youth. And that did stop Nolan. He's like, you're right. We do need more eggs so Mark can heal up properly and get better. So you are right in that aspect. And then a few months passed by, and you can tell it's been at least a month, maybe 2 or 3, because Nolan and Mark are starting to grow facial hair a little bit. And now, after it's been a while, after they've been eating the same stuff over and over again, after it looks like Mark is starting to heal up a little bit, Oliver and Nolan are opening up to each other a bit more. Oliver asked him, why'd he have him if he didn't care about Andressa at all? And Nolan had to explain to him that he didn't mean what he said to Debbie. It was kind of a heat of the moment situation. He was desperate. He misses Debbie. He wants to get back with her. So this was a desperation attempt to do that, as we all know from different relationships in the past where somebody has made a mistake or somebody has cheated or something. They'll be like, oh, it didn't mean anything. That my heart was in that. That didn't mean anything to me. Like, these are tactics that people do. It makes sense that that was something that he said in the heat of the moment that he may or may not have meant. But it's leaning a bit more on the he didn't mean it side currently. He seems very forgiving. He seemed very downtrodden the whole time for all of his actions that he's caused, because as it just seems like he can't get anything right. So he wants to try to kind of sort of make amends with Oliver any possible way he can. He's been very cordial. He's been very helpful with them. He's finally getting Oliver to eat now. He's eating with him finally. Oliver even saying the food is getting good. And then Oliver asks him, could you tell me more about my mom? Could you tell me more about the planet Thraxa? So it seems like all is going well at this point. And it's about halfway through the episode, and last time something crazy happened when everything was all going space and dandy. But there's no way something crazy and bad happens in this episode as well, right?
You grew a beard.
I'm about 38 minutes in now, nothing really crazy to talk about currently. Mark, thank God, has finally woken up. Apparently it's only been 2 months, so not that long has passed, thank God. But also I guess Mark kind of went into shock when he was fighting Conquest, because he asked Oliver and Nolan when he finally ran into them, who killed Conquest. He was asking Nolan if he was the one that killed Conquest. They were like, no bro, you did. And he seemed to not be able to believe that he was able to do that. And it ended with Nolan telling him, hey, this war is kind of just getting started, my guy. And then it cut back to the Coalition planet. Thetis, Alan, everybody's all kind of in a cheery mood because the Coalition has been kicking the Viltrumites' ass so far. It's been going really well for them. And then it cut to one of the two people that are always at the entrance whenever they walk in, the two people that are always sitting down, that seems to have control over all of the security system on this Coalition planet, and they turned down one of the satellites. They let the Viltrumite spaceship in. One of these fucks is the traitor. So now the Viltrumites are in here attacking the people of the Coalition planet. And not just like the no-name Viltrumites. Some of them are there as well, but also General Craig, Anissa. They got some big names within here, so like, are these people gonna make it out alive? I think a lot of casualties are about to happen. And hopefully we get an Invincible shonen main character like entrance. You know, they think everybody's doomed, everybody's about to fall, maybe Alan's about to get the what for, and then boom, Mark appears, or Omni-Man, or Oliver, or all three of them. That'd be kind of cool. Oh, cool, I was right. I've now seen the rest of the episode, and they did make a shonen main character entrance fighting against them in the Coalition planet. It was during a moment when Anissa came to try to attack Head Jacket, and they were scuffling about, and Anissa was like, oh, you don't need this armor, let's see how well you do without that, and she ripped off the chest plate. But before she could do the Viltra knife thing, which they are defaulting to at this point, Mark came in and knocked her away before she could do any serious damage to Head Jacket. And then slowly behind him came Nolan, and then came Oliver, and now they're there helping everybody in the Coalition fight off against the Viltrumites. And it is not going well for them. I don't know why they thought this attack would go well for them. I guess it would have if Invincible didn't show up there, right? And it went so poorly to the point where Mark told Oliver, hey, let's blow up the ship, and they blew up the ship, and gee golly, I didn't realize that Thrag was on the ship. I thought he was somewhere scheming and planning and watching it from afar. He's right there on the ship looking at it. Why aren't you in the action, my guy? Aren't you the strongest one? Don't you want to win? Why aren't you actioning right now? But after the ship exploded is when Thrag was like, Viltrums, retreat, let's head out. We'll try this again. We'll avenge Argol another time. So they're all recouping back to the Viltrum planet, and now Thetis has a new mission. He wants to take Thrag out before he has the opportunity to go get the rest of the Viltrums there to help him out. So they're heading to the planet Viltrum. It's going to be a coming home party for Nolan. It's going to be a coming home party for Thetis. It's going to be the first time Mark and Oliver has both been there. Mark feels far away from home. He feels like he's very homesick right now. He doesn't want to go to this planet. Oliver, he says he doesn't really feel like he belongs on Earth. So I think he might feel some sort of a kinship to the way the Viltrum Empire is operated. If they are able to liberate the Viltrum Empire and planet eventually, I feel like I could see Oliver staying on this planet or staying somewhere else other than Earth. I don't know. But, I mean, with this being a very focused battle war episode, there wasn't really much to say about it. The main talking points I wanted to bring up in this episode was about Nolan and Oliver, those were the main talking points I wanted to discuss. Mark feels different, but I don't really know how to explain how he feels different. He doesn't seem as innocent as he once did, and that might just be because of the beard, that might just be because of the darkness around his eyes. He just seems like he has now seen some shit, and he's now able to dish it out. He's battled, he's bruised, he probably wants to go home, not even a couple of months out. It feels like this recovery process changed him, and I hope for the better. Maybe he just has a bit more of a resolve to win this war. I'd say that much. It feels like he may have more of a personal resolve at this point. Okay, I am now about to start watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 7. This is an exciting moment for Invincible. We're about to go meet Thrag on the planet Viltrum. We're about to see the planet for the first time in current time in Invincible. It's going to be fun. I'm very excited for this. Hopefully this war is epic. Do people still use that word?
I do not believe you.
I'm about 9 minutes into this episode now, and like, my god, I always forget how cartoonishly evil the Viltrumite is. And seeing his backstory just reminds me of that 100%. There's a couple of things to talk about within this backstory. I'm very surprised that we're getting this backstory entirely regardless. I just kind of thought that we were going to hear about Argyle through Thrag's dialogue and Thetis' dialogue itself, but not actually view what Argyle was to society. But no, we got that, and we got this brief glimpse of how it was and how Thetis was on his return from some planet. He now has a little bit more sympathy than he did previously, and he's a little bit hesitant for them to kill off a species now. And Argyle doesn't like that. Thrag sees his species as something weak, something that should fear them, but doesn't, and Argyle agrees. And upon hearing that, Thetis then proceeds to catch Argyle lacking and kill him, and then we get this whole weird montage of Viltrumites attacking each other because they're trying to get the weak out, but it doesn't really feel like they're trying to find a sensitive type. It just seems like they're scared to die by Thrag's hand. So they're going to kill other people as well, because like Thrag asked one guy, "Are you going to turn on us too?" The guy said no. He killed him anyway and said, "I don't believe you. Why did you ask then, my guy?" So then there was just this whole bloodshed of other Viltrumites killing Viltrumites. This species of beings do not seem smart. They think strength is the only thing that should be respected and feared, but they're also scared of each other. So does that mean, like, it feels like the ones that have survived are the ones that were scared that they were gonna die in the first place. So does that mean that they're actually inferior to whatever else is out there? Or are they just saying it since they survived that they are indeed the strongest ones? Because I really am starting to feel like mentally this race isn't the strongest. They're not the strongest at all mentally, but they don't talk about mental strength. They don't care about mental strength. They just care about the physical attributes. And I don't know why I'm just making this comparison now. Obviously, I can give real world counterparts as well, but we're sticking with other animated stuff. I'm getting really big Fire Nation vibes from here. Another imperialistic nation of people who want us to spread the word of their people across the entire world. Basically, it's just on a grander scale with the Viltrumites. And they're using their strength and numbers to do that. And just like within the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender, there were people like Iroh, people like Zuko, who kind of spoke up within the round table during a meeting and got shunned for it, got hated for it, got sent off and became basically a refugee or a traitor until they were able to do something that could bring them back. It's just an interesting comparison to make, and even if we brought in the real world counterparts, I do think we all can see all roads lead to no good things happening for these people. Like, all roads lead to everybody dying. Each time we see something happen in a backstory when it comes to the Viltrumites, they die. There's a whole group of them that die, whether it's to the Scourge virus, whether it's to this where they're trying to purge the weak away from their society. Every time it's just a whole lot of them dying, and it's something.
I will not risk even the smallest chance their empire could rise again.
Okay, I'm about 19 minutes in now, and we got a little bit of downtime while they were traveling to the planet. And I think this downtime was very important for two reasons. One, they chose for this time to really build up Thrag, saying this guy is genuinely dangerous. I've seen the reports. Nolan is scared. They're saying, hey, Thrag is 10 times, 100, infinity times worse than you can imagine. So, like, don't go in alone. Oliver, don't try to fight him alone like you did Conquest. Really, we all should stick together and follow this plan 10 toes down, because if we slip up one time, Thrag is gonna have our heads. And this talk is very important because we do need to start building Thrag up a little bit. You know, people online a little bit throughout the past week was saying he was on Fraud Watch. People are saying he seemed a little bit like a bitch when he screamed no in the other episode for Argall's skull, without knowing that's his entire resistance is dedicated to Argall. That's his whole thing. But, like, you know, people don't know all of his history like that, so they're gonna say, this guy's a little bit of a bitch. He screamed no emphatically because a skull fell. So we do need to give this moment with the backstory and this talk of them being like, yeah, Thrag is that guy. We should be worried. They needed to do this for people to know he is genuinely that guy and he's going to do crazy stuff once this war actually happens. And the second thing this downtime was important for is for Nolan and Thetis to talk. Nolan still feels conflicted about all of this. He knows that Thrag must die, but he also knows that's going to leave the Viltrumites very defenseless and very weak. He knows them having a leader is what gives them strength, and he feels bad that they're not going to have a leader still. He is still a Viltrumite at the end of the day, and he's trying to explain all of this to Thetis, maybe somebody who could understand him because he is a Viltrumite as well. But Thetis is extremely on the other side, saying anybody that could give a threat, we must kill. They all must die so this doesn't happen again. And Nolan seems kind of weirded out by this, being like, you know, Oliver and Mark are Viltrumites as well, right? So it's giving a little bit of conflicting issues right there. There might be some issues brewing between the two, and it might come to blows later, but maybe not right now while they're focused on this mission. We'll figure it out maybe the minute Thrag is dead or the minute they're about to kill Thrag, because something crazy is going to happen. So I'm about 28 minutes in now. Their sneaky stealth mission did not go as planned at all. They immediately got ambushed, and I really like the fact that the Viltrumites had the brilliant idea of pretending to be some of the dead bodies in the ring so they could get a great opportunity attack onto them. It's kind of ingenious, I'm not gonna lie. They're kind of smart with it. For a group of people who I'm assuming have never had to ambush somebody in their life, that was a really great idea. So the rest of this time is them fighting off a lot of the Viltrumites while Thrag stands far away, and they're actually killing a lot of these Viltrumites, you know, Space Racer's there. He had some of the animal creatures that Nolan and Alan couldn't catch back in the day. Ted Jacket has some poison that makes the Viltrumites' bodies impenetrable for Alan to be able to rip them apart. It's going very much better than they could have expected, better than I could have expected. So then Nolan went after Thrag, and oh my god, the aura this man has exuded the minute Nolan tried to punch, and he just shifted back slightly. He just has it like that. He didn't even move his hands from behind his back at that moment, and then he punched him directly down to the Viltrum planet. And I want to say this, we've gotten like 2 or 3 backstories about the Viltrum planet so far, and each time we see this planet, it feels like Krypton. Very bright, very futuristic buildings and technology around. It seems very nice to live in. Everybody's wearing white. All the buildings are kind of white, beigey. But the way it looks now, the way it looked when Thrag punched Nolan down there, everything's dark and grimy and it has a more Gotham aesthetic to it. The buildings are still in rubble. This place has seen a lot better days, and I think it's very symbolic of the state of the Viltrum Empire in general. This empire is not in a good state, is in a very rocky state, is in, I guess it's in turbulence, if you will. Dark clouds shroud around their people. They have bad luck. And once they landed on this planet, Thrag then proceeded to talk to Nolan. He's trying to get him to come back to the Empire. And if he does, everything will be forgiven. Everything will be alright. He's trying to make him come home. He's playing to the confliction that's clearly in Nolan's mind. He says, listen, there's only a few of us left, but we all know you. We've all fought by you. We've all fought with you. We are your family, Nolan. Come back home. He says, no, this isn't a home, it's a tomb. Like, I have another family now. Dag did not like him calling it a tomb. He yelled at him almost immediately, letting his persona slip slightly. That was good. I like that. But Thrag quickly recollected himself and came at him through a different angle. He said, if Thetis were to win, do you think your family would be off the hook? And Omni-Man just started walking with him. Oh my god, what's gonna happen? I have no idea, but they're not fighting right now. I don't think that Nolan is going to switch sides, but I do think he's going to be tempted extremely hard to switch sides and maybe even try to fight off Thetis. I do think him and Thetis are going to come to blows, and maybe that's going to get him to talk to Mark again, and Mark and Oliver are going to be like, yo, what's up with all of this, man? Why are you doing this? And they're going to try to convince him to not do what he's going to do and join back with them. And it's going to be a little bit messy. Also, though, I do kind of think Oliver is a little bit conflicted. Like, not as much as Nolan, but when they were going through the belt of dead Viltrumites, he did seem a little uneasy. So I'm starting to think he might be a little bit conflicted in this battle as well, but he's not letting it show as much as Nolan is. I'm about 40 minutes in now, and what an insane escalation this episode has taken almost instantly. When it cut back to Thrag and Nolan talking, and they were discussing the situation and how they could probably move on, or like the Empire is in trouble, this feels like a gravesite and whatever. Thrag just completely in denial, saying the Empire is just one step from becoming back what it once was, and with him, they can do it. But Nolan said no. So Thrag decided to punch him as hard as he could and sent him back up into space. And when he went back up there, boom, knocked out Oliver, ripped his arm off and broke his face. And he proceeded to throw people around with the most ease. Mark tried to punch him and it didn't do anything, and he said, I'm disappointed. Crazy, because everybody looked at Mark astonished when he said he killed Conquest. So him saying that was nothing to him is alarming if they ever fight again. And I'm saying if they ever fight again because when Nolan awoke and saw the state that Oliver was in, he said, alright, guys, follow me, Space Racer, shoot your laser at this planet. We're gonna blow the planet up. That's the escalation. They followed behind the laser and destroyed the planet, going from the outside to the core to the other side. The Viltrum planet is no more. They blew it up on some Frieza stuff. Crazy. And here's the thing, if the Scourge virus wasn't enough that wiped out nearly 80 to 90% of the Viltrum Empire, if that wasn't enough to change them, why would blowing up their home planet be enough to change them? Could they not just find a new planet and make it their home? Because that's always a possibility. Things do that all the time. That's what conquering is for. That's what invading is for. Like, this happens all the time, no? I'm about 47 minutes in, and my god, whatever facade that Thrag had on earlier is now gone. His planet's destroyed, his entire entity, his entire being feels like it is gone now. So now he's just on destroy mode. He instantly kills Thaddeus. Instantly. We've seen this guy since about season 1 or 2, and he's gone now. Already. Just like that. And now he's fighting Nolan, and Mark's a little bit behind them, and they're trying to double team him, trying to fight him, but it's just not, it's not going well. It's not going well at all. He's did the Viltrumite hand knife thing through Nolan, and he's crushed Mark's eyes, but before he could do any more damage to Mark, he's holding Mark, and symbolically, the Viltrumite planet is right behind him, right above his head. He's looking at the planet and looking at Mark, looking at the destroyed planet, looking at all the death and chaos that is around, just full of dead Viltrumites, full of dead Viltrumite body parts and stuff. And he's looking back at Mark. And his people come to him and they say, hey, go ahead and kill him. He's destroyed our planet. And he says, there's already too little of us. And he lets him go. The first sign of sympathy in the Viltrum Empire. Thrag has had a little bit of sympathy this entire time. His emotions no longer tied to Argol's skull. He now has to figure out his emotions internally and what the Viltrum Empire really means to him. What does it mean to be a Viltrumite now, where the Viltrumite's world is gone? His mission, his ethos, it feels like it's all gone now. What does it mean to be a Viltrumite? He just floats away and the rest follow slowly after. Does this mean that they're defeated? It doesn't feel like it, but it also kind of does. Their planet is gone, but Oliver's gotten mollywopped, Nolan's gotten mollywopped, Mark, surprisingly, is the least damaged one here out of the three. Thaddeus is dead. Ted, Jack, and Alan are relatively pretty okay. So is Space Racer. Does this mean the war is over? Is everybody going to have to go recollect their thoughts and come up with something else? Is the Coalition going to be able to survive without Thaddeus? Like, I have so many questions now, and I'm hoping the next episode can answer at least some of it.
They've gone to Earth.
I have now watched the rest of the episode, and it's starting to look like it's gonna get a lot more dangerous before it gets peaceful. For one, it has to cut 2 weeks later for them to all heal up and stuff, because they were seriously hurt. Mark and Nolan have woken up, but Oliver hasn't. But now they all have to recollect themselves and talk with Alan to figure out what's going on. He's now the head of the Coalition, and they can't find the Viltrumites anywhere. They've searched quadrant after quadrant, pillar to post, and they just have no clue where the Viltrumites can be hiding at all. And they're saying this to one of the strongest Viltrumites, who just happens to be half human. They're heading to Earth. Whether it's to repopulate or not, who knows, but they're heading to Earth. I personally assume it's to repopulate. They're trying to increase their numbers and rebuild the Viltrum Empire from the ground up while on Earth. They're not going to be able to do that very quickly. They're definitely not, but they are going to be trying to do that. How are they going to do that exactly while also trying to fight Mark and Nolan? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Some agreement's going to have to happen. Right? Like, they brought it up, and some agreement's gonna have to happen. I also kind of feel some symbolic things of maybe Nolan becoming the leader, maybe. I'm not entirely sure, though. Because I remember earlier when he was talking to Thaddeus, and he was trying to say the Viltrumites are going to be cowardice without a leader. They're going to be defenseless without a leader, and the window was kind of showing his reflection, kind of yearning for something, like he's saying he should be the leader. And then again, when he was talking to Thrag, when he was trying to get him to come to his side, and he was saying, who will lead the Viltrumites if I'm not here? Who? And Nolan just kind of had a weird face about him. I think Nolan wants to lead the Viltrumites, whether it's to a new peace or whether it's to destroy and keep going with Argol's ethos with the whole fear and everything. I don't know, but Nolan, I think 100% wants to lead the Empire. But will he? Who knows? I'm finally able to get around to watching episode 8, the last episode of season 4. I feel like I vaguely know the story structure of Invincible, so I kind of know what's going to happen, but I cannot wait to see it animated.
We're not even sure Thrag's there.
And where else would he be?
Okay, I'm about 3 minutes in, but there is something I wanted to say about what I just saw, and I guess about Invincible as a whole so far. I just want to speak a little bit positive because there hasn't been as much hype around this season as there has been to previous seasons. Which isn't saying a lot, it's still a good season, but people are just putting in at like a 9 instead of a 10. I want to say this season was two halves. One was the anticipation building up towards the war, and one was the war itself and all of the tension the war brought. I think when people assumed that the Viltrumite War was approaching, they all, maybe the people who didn't read the comics and stuff, including myself, I guess, but I am aware of the basic story. I feel like a lot of people anticipated a lot more of a war, more violence, more bloodshed, more people throwing haymakers at each other, and yes, we did get a planet explosion, but it wasn't an all-out battle, if you will. Like, there were lives lost, but not like important lives, outside of the coalition leader whose name I can't remember currently. But I just don't think this season was about the stakes. If we're thinking about the stakes and the hypes that Invincible has gone through, I think season 3 probably tops this season, but I do think this season did tension really well. And it kind of reminded me of season 1 for that, but tension in a different way, because in season 1, the tension was all about Nolan and his change, and like everybody's kind of afraid of him, and that fear that they get anytime he's around, and then potentially finding out that he's the one who killed the Guardians. This tension is a little bit different and is also a little bit all over the place. I want to say it feels a little bit more family focused, specifically about the Graysons, Nolan's tension with Debbie, Debbie's anger towards Nolan, Nolan's tension towards Oliver, Oliver's disdain for Nolan, and them kind of having to bond and get over that. And the whole issue between the Viltrumites in general, since they're all Viltrumites, they all kind of feel like this is like a big family squabble, if you will. And now the main tension is that the Viltrumites have gone to Earth. What are they doing? It's going to be days before they can get there. We've seen a little bit of clips of them already causing havoc, causing major tsunamis and stuff, and Mark is trapped on the spaceship for days, having to wait until they arrive. There's going to be so much damage done by the time they get to Earth, probably is going to be insane, because days away and they're already there causing so much havoc. Is there going to be an Earth left? I mean, there has to be, of course, but like, still crazy.
They're not here.
Okay, so now I'm about 8 minutes in and they're not there. The Viltrumites aren't on Earth, or at least that's what they think. I personally don't think that's the case, but everything seems pretty peachy fine. But then what was that clip at the beginning of the episode? Was that clip Mark's fears? Maybe he was daydreaming? Was that what he assumed was going to happen? But also, here's the thing. What would be their goal at Earth? I don't think their goal at Earth would be to destroy if it was to go to Earth, because if that was the case, why wouldn't he have just killed Mark right then and there? Like, getting revenge on Earth because, I don't know, I guess they think it toxified Mark and Nolan. But also, you have to remember, Mark is really strong, and he is half Earthling. And their whole mission, the mission that Nolan was on, was for him to go find hosts that were very compatible to Viltrumites. So, put 2 and 2 together, and also he let Mark survive because his people were too low already. I kind of think they've already started to try to acclimate towards Earth. I think they're already here. I think they're trying to get along and trying to understand the customs. They're going to run into them somewhere, and there's going to be a big brouhaha, and Mark's going to try to punch them and fight them, and then maybe they're going to talk. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm wrong.
Eve?
Mark!
I'm about 15 minutes in now, and it's so oddly quiet. Genuinely. Like, a lot more quiet than I thought it was going to be. I did overhear that there wasn't going to be that much action in this episode, but it feels so quiet. And like I mentioned earlier, it's that tension that feels like it's brewing because the the Viltrumites are there in the back of your head, like, oh, they can show up in any moment, they can show up in any second, and they're letting you know that Mark is terrified of that happening because he is having like weird like flashes of PTSD-isms of that happening. He imagined Thrag behind Debbie's head like Anissa was to Amber back in like season 3, season 2, and that tension's probably going to be here for the entire episode. And we also have a lot more character drama to talk about, mostly between Nolan and Debbie. I'm not gonna lie to you, I know the story is going to make Debbie go back to Nolan. I don't want it. I genuinely don't want it. I feel like there's a way to have Omni-Man redeem himself and him and Debbie to be mutuals without them being romantically involved. I think that is a big thing that can happen but won't happen. And what's leaning me towards the side of it not happening is that Nolan started to talk about Debbie's love for giving people second chances, her strong will for believing in people and believing people can rehabilitate, and her rehabilitating herself, I guess, from what Nolan's words have done to her. And I think it's one thing to forgive him, but I feel like it's a completely different thing to take him back. In my opinion, like, you know, everybody, you know, to each his own, everybody has their different opinions. I just feel like it shouldn't happen. And now Mark is starting to talk to Eve. They have now met up. He's seen Eve has gained a little weight. You get to see cute, chubby Eve now. That's cool. I've been anticipating this for the longest time. She looks basically the same, just with a little weight on her. Obviously, that's all somebody is if they gain a little weight. They just look like themselves, but a little heavier, which is fine. Everybody loves some love handles. Come on now. And I know what Eve isn't telling him, and I feel like she has to tell him by the end of this episode, because that is a big thing that's still going to be weighing her down. And it's that tension that is there. It's like there are unspoken words that she isn't saying to him that she needs to say to him in this exact moment. She missed the opportunity to tell him previously, but now it's the time for her to do that. She just barely mentioned, yeah, I don't know, my powers just kind of returned after a while from being here with my family and trying to take care of them and live a normal life. She never really explained why yet.
I had an abortion.
I'm about 25 minutes in now. Eve has just told Mark what exactly happened. She had an abortion, and I think it touched the right amount of tension that it needed in this scene. This scene felt so serious. I felt serious, feeling like I'm eavesdropping into this moment between them. I didn't feel like I should have been here to hear this between them. It felt very raw, very real, if you will, because like these types of stuff can and do happen. Either people can have bodily complications, or maybe somebody just doesn't want to because they don't want their body to go through those changes, and so many other different types of reasons why these situations can happen. And you just had to sit there and soak in the moment between them, because this is 100% a private conversation that's going on right now, and whether you think it's a controversial thing or not, it happens, it's impactful, and I feel like this moment makes sense. Everybody acts differently on emotions. She acted at a spur of the moment. She didn't know if Mark was coming back. Her head was going through a downward spiral. She didn't have her powers. She was maybe living with her parents at the time. It was a lot. You know, her dad's breathing down her neck. It was a lot. It was probably a lot.
Help protect Earth in case they come.
Until then, get the fuck off my planet.
I'm about 29 minutes in now, and I wanted to talk about Nolan again because him and Cecil have now talked. Him and Cecil have had a discussion, and I think it's really starting to dawn on Nolan how much of what he has done has affected everyone. You know, like, he has lived, he has felt like he has changed, and he is now different from the person he was back in season 1, but nobody else sees him as that. Everybody else still sees him as that person that killed all those people in Chicago, that person that brutally almost killed his son. And I know some fans are like, oh, everybody's too hard on him, yada, yada, yada. You have to understand, this guy has killed a lot of people. He was on this earth for like 20 something years, and people found out he was living a lie. They don't know if they can trust him. They feel like they can't trust him. Like, not only has he killed a lot of people, he has also lied, like, for basically 20 years. So it's not just something he can come back and be like, hey, I'm good now, and they're like, oh, thank goodness, welcome back, come back with open arms, hey, I'm Art, I'm gonna make you a new suit now, oh yes, here, Debbie, y'all two get back together. It's not that easy, and it shouldn't be that easy, because if somebody fucks up, they have repercussions to pay, they have consequences for their actions. It doesn't matter how sorry somebody is, they still did it. You can't sit in a court and be like, I understand what I did was wrong and I apologize for it, I have changed tremendously since then. It doesn't work like that. You have still done it. Even on a moral standpoint, it doesn't work like that. And whether everybody does or not, I'm really excited to see the journey Nolan takes next.
Yes, we are here.
Oh my goodness. What a episode. I have finished the entirety of the rest of this episode, and honestly, I really enjoyed it. This whole episode surrounded Mark and his ongoing anxiety attacks, ongoing PTSD, ongoing flashes of him seeing Thrag come out of nowhere and killing one of his loved ones. He is seeing this constantly, whether it's to Adam Eve, whether it's to William, whether it's to Cecil, whether it's to Debbie. He is constantly seeing Thrag come into his vision and just slaughtering somebody in front of him. He is deathly terrified of this happening towards him. It's this ticking time bomb that he's waiting for it to go off. The tension was at its max for this entire episode, and the tension came to a hold once Mark went flying. He went flying to kind of free his thoughts, free his mind, and he was doing good for the most part until he re-entered Earth's atmosphere, and above the clouds there stood Thrag. Him thinking he's having another anxiety attack, him thinking it's all in his head again. He's trying to calm himself down, trying to assume that, hey, this isn't happening to me. But oh boy, is it happening. And Thrag is such an interesting character, because everybody assumed that Thrag was going to be this very menacing, very villainous creature, but really he's a lot more methodical in nature compared to other Viltrumites we know, i.e. Conquest. He might be stronger than Conquest, but his nature isn't to fight. His nature is trying to find the betterments for his people. His nature is to try to think about the future of the Viltrumites. And what he came to figure out was that it's best for the Viltrumites to acclimate to society, for Viltrumites to go hidden between the people. He's told Mark he'll never hear from him or see him or his people again, because they will just be one of them. They will act like one of them, they will play like one of them, work like one of them. They will become humans, basically, to an extent, because they really want to rebuild their people. He's promised them, let's have a truce. I'm not going to try to indoctrinate anybody. I'm not going to try to hurt any of these Earthlings. We're just here to repopulate our people in the best way possible, and that's to basically become one with Earth. And honestly speaking, it'd be weird for Mark to not agree to those terms. I don't know if people have been picking apart that or not, but there was basically no other choice that Mark could have made. Even Thrag kind of said to him, you don't have a choice, but yet you do. Because if he says no, he's instantly going to slaughter the entire world. And Mark can't do anything about it. His fists do nothing to him. Nolan just left the planet with Debbie. These warning stuff are up for no reason at this point, because the Viltrumites are already here. And I really like that for a conclusion for this war. One of my favorite animes of all time is Parasite, the Maxim, and it ended in a similar way where like the whole world was freaking out about these alien parasites that has fallen from the sky and is taking control of all of these different humans, and they're going around slaughtering people and stuff. But one day they just stopped. They had just started acting like humans, and at some point in time people kind of just forgot about the parasites because they're eating like humans now, they're talking like humans, they're working like humans. They are basically humans at this point, and we're in another situation like that with this. But the difference is between Parasite and this show is still going. Even if Mark has agreed to him, Mark does not trust them. So that ticking time bomb that he's desperately afraid of is still going to be in the back of his head. Every time he sees one, he's going to feel something like they're going to try something. They're going to do something. And that will be with him probably forever, because you have destroyed their planet. You have done the most to them. You've retaken control of all of their enslaved planets. Like, you have done so much, but yet you're still in their trap. And that's so scary to live in. Maybe eventually he can forget, but that's such a scary scenario to be in. When it comes to me and my knowledge of Invincible, the bulk of my knowledge was strictly about the Viltrumite War, so I don't really know much else about the story. I know bits and pieces. I'm not going to say them. I almost did. I know bits and pieces of future plots and stuff, but I don't really know as much as I did about the Viltrumite War. It's very interesting for this not to be the last arc of the show, so I'm really curious to how they can maybe not escalate the story, but how they continue to tell Invincible's story from here on out. I'm really interested to how it progresses.